Hello, Inkosi Sigelele Africa. Malapakaniso Panduayo Izwe Metando Zoyetu Inkosi Sigelela. Not just 25,600 minutes are we striving to be here in political education. Not just 24/7, 365 days of the year are we trying to be here. We're hoping to bring a newness, a political education grounded in the Black radical tradition to our people, to our communities, to speak on the traditions that we don't receive in our schools, in our communities, because after pandemic and the uprising, it is time to embrace these things. And so I'm glad to be a part of this tradition that we are carrying for many reasons. One of them is based on this fight that we have here, which I'm going to show on my screen. Oops, that's not the right one, but that is okay. I'm going to switch on the diagram that we have. This diagram is a fight that we uphold in the country right now. It's about a love thing, I want to say. And the love thing is showing, let's see, can we get it up? It's showing the power and the support of an individual. And we may not be able to bring it up, and that's okay. I was hoping that we would be able to bring up this next slide. And that is regarding Mamiya. We had some actions to happen all around the country, to people to be really get aware of his struggle with the COVID, with his health conditions. We will always be talking about his case until he is free. And we are expecting that to happen, his freedom, because we don't want to talk about it as we hear right now. People are making his obituary. And we're saying, no. We don't want his obituary. We want folks to be aware that we want him free. We want him released. We want him as an elder to be able to walk. He has done so much work in the movement to educate us as organizers, as those that are bringing knowledge of why oppression is wrong, why we are putting pressure on the institutions that have brought us here. For those of us that had came here as in enslaved ships, we're putting pressure on from the folks that are disabled bodies to change the apparatus of how people are looked at. We're putting pressure on those to understand why healthcare is for all during a time a pandemic came and swept the lives of millions of people. And there were those billionaires that hoarded money and resources, and everyone else had nothing. We are putting pressure on the institutions where isms have allowed so many to be divided on who are the haves and who are the have-nots. So in that respect, we give you the greeting, and we say to you, it is our duty as we have this show for you today. I do want to say there's been some new information on where we stand for the Amazon. We have a report that yesterday, which was March 20th on Saturday, has grown, right? So we have the February 20th, which is Black History Month. And we here in the West Coast and the East Coast and the South stood besides Bessemer, because Bessemer is where we are going to have this union for Amazon. We are depending on the 6,000 to be educated by those that have come across through the Southern Workers Assembly and the solidarity groups of unions across the country and community organizers and all the well-wishers and others who are thankful that their votes are going to be counted, right? We're talking about counting votes again since November. The votes to establish to this billionaire, whom you all know the names. He's the man that you all of us have been giving money to from Amazon during the pandemic. And it's allowed him to have millions of dollars in 1 year. But yet there isn't a union. So our status is to report that we are pushing for this, that we are giving gratitude for all of you that came out yesterday in different parts of the country to be next to the solidarity groups, to rally through car caravans and protests and rallies. And we're hoping the next phase is that you understand the need for political education. And with that, just like a cooperative that we are, in order to have a cooperative, we have to be educated on what is governance. Why do we need to do this? Why do we need to know the definitions of capitalism and white supremacy and white fragility? And, what is the need? Why can't we just demand and, go out and fight? Right. And that's because there is theory and there is thought, and Black radical tradition is our show because there is a lack. Many people have been involved with the institution of the pandemic uprising, and we're so proud of that, and the civil rights movement, and we're so part of that. But to have in our ranks, rank and file, for people to know why that's not enough. To put in the ballot, right, and drop in the box our vote is important. It gave Mandela his seat, but Mandela's seat was not enough. He constantly had learned and educated with the ANC, and we have constantly learned in our politics, Republican, Democrat, that the difference has been the oppressed has always been outside of the narratives, right? And even with a Democratic president, his fight is for the middle class. And so if we are educated to understand why the working class is important and why Bessemer is about the working class, I got my working class shirt on today, then we become more unified. And the movements that they have killed, and I mean movements, from the Black Panthers with COINTELPRO to the Black Lives Matter with the Black Identity Link, it's still COINTELPRO. We must all know this. We must grow organizers. And growing organizers today, I am very happy to report upon this thing. And I made some notes here from Brazilian workers that went on to strike, and Algeria and Mexico and Haiti and solidarity and very emotional. But there's also that freedom of Palestine and Iraqi and American business. So, all of this whole synergy of why Nelson Mandela and the Parliament and Amnesty International reports and standing our ground since COVID-19 and the pandemic has got people like, I'm doing it and we're making change. But then we see that the many steps that you take forward, sometimes we take steps back. And some are finding out, like, what happened with the civil rights movement when we found out we weren't using rhetoric from, like Bernie Sanders talks about, for socialism. What happened when we only wanted the Black middle class, and then our communities, which were Black communities where we were educating each other and the worth of a child, the mom and pops were gone. We didn't have that business. And then we had Black flight, and we didn't have ownership in our land and trust like that anymore. And then we went and thought it would be better in communities that people didn't like us, but we didn't know our neighbors. And so we constantly go back to these places again. And it has a lot to do with political education. It has a lot to do with the young people and having their generation and their technology. My son and daughter are so good at it, and they just push a button and they say, "Mom, let me do it for you," But that technology will only take them somewhere if they don't have a strategy, if they don't have tempered debate. And we don't have tempered debate anymore, I would say, because there's a fear of telling the truth. And I wanted to read something on that, because telling the truth in our movements is why Mandela is not out right now, and we're going to get him out, because he made sure that we knew about debate and political education. And guess what? Just as the movie showed for Billie Holiday this weekend, if you haven't seen it in the last 2 weeks, we did not know our sister was a lesbian. We did not know why she wasn't talked about her personal life, right? And why is it we never talked about the FBI that wanted her tied to her bed? Why wasn't that debate talked about? I'm saying this to my Black people. I want to say the Black class, middle class, didn't always accept her. Hello. It's quiet. It's quiet in here. They loved her music. We always love our folks after they're gone. She wasn't really liked because she was a crack addict. Okay. And we have this principled thought that because she wasn't educated in the schools, that, yeah, the people in college campuses have more thought process and theory. She wasn't on that. And the middle class should rule, and then the pastors should be in charge. And, and so what I'm getting to is this aspect that it won't always be like Martin Luther King, who we loved, are the leaders. It won't be just pastors, men. It won't be just women. Well, I can't say Harriet Tubman because she didn't have a degree either. It won't be just the academia or the ones that were put into leadership from the nonprofits because they won the executive directorship. That's a good way. Billie Holiday was not only battered. I'm going to talk about the aspect of her as a woman because of the sexual abuse my mom has had when she was young. Why I am so strong on this, because she drilled into my head, do not let men just do anything to you. Billie Holiday would have said that to me, I'm sure. She was abused and sexually abused at 10. So she had a way where she was always seen as a victim. But, this movie, you all, if you haven't seen this movie, it tells of how powerful, Harriet is on the $20 bill. Maybe we need to be putting Billie Holiday on a $100 bill. She fought against the FBI. No, they fought her. She talked about in this movie how it was all about her spirit. And I really bring this to the language of wanting to debate about her place in this movement and why I saw this movie, because there's this thing of who should be the speaker, who should be the limelight of this movement, who should be the leaders. And we all should. If she was the lowest of the barrel, the crack addict, the one that was womanized, right? But she had a platform. She had a song. And she did not let down. There used to be men all in the club to take her off the stage. She kept singing the song. And then all my life I've known about the civil rights movement. But how come I don't see her anywhere in our paper, in our publications, in our books about her role of sparking the civil rights movement because of the song that she sung, the way she sung it, called Strange Fruit. Yeah. All of us have to win. And when we put the unsung hero also on the platform, also in the Zoom call, and the forefront of the newspaper article, not just the leaders that have been educated, have had rhetoric, have had the power and the nonprofit backing, but those that could be maybe a crack addict, a lesbian, um, one that was imprisoned, those similar, if I can remind you, to those that raised the nation, like Shaka Zulu's mother, who was outside of her village. Somehow or another, in Africa, it's different. You can't just say, well, go do you, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. We have a different way we talked and walked. We were about that community. We were about not just being a part of, just the tribe. We were all there, the young and the old, intergeneration, the elders there with the young people that were about to go out, And so Shaka Zulu's mom, she raised that man. So he fought against the colonialists. And I don't hear these stories. I hear a lot about the middle class. And I say this because Biden made that statement, yes. But when you think of how often women's stories aren't told, when they're alive, when they're around, when they're unsung heroes, I seen so many of them when I was younger that took the kids in the community, didn't have no money, made sure they ate, went to the pool or to the beach with them. These were before we had insurance policy information that we had to uphold, right? Because they're always on our neck about who you shouldn't be taking care of, right? And then here now they're taking the industry of medicinal cannabis. So there's no laws now, right? But so what I'm saying is that Billie Holiday created disturbance back then. And it's important we think of the Sankofa, to go back where we come from, to know where we are now, to know what our fight is next. And I put her in the center today because we didn't like her too much. We loved her singing. The energy of a lot of women in organizers I know who have children, especially, I need to say this, can't write thesis papers and analysts because they're trying to feed their kids and work late at night like I did at Amazon. I haven't had time, and I should write more, right? And we all should. But single mothers may not have time. And it would be great sometimes that people couple us with people, right? But sisters like Billie, wow. And I know she's written some things, but if we would have really known what she was up against with the FBI, some of the people in the movements that were there in that time, because she kept saying how she needed help. And I think in this new day, when we think of the encampments of the homeless and the drug industry that is getting rid of our freedom fighters, political prisoners like Maroon and Mutulu and Mamiya, this is to free them all. In our new world, we need to see classism amongst us to be dismantled, just like the isms of racism and disability. So I think this is the goal, is that we find the ways to bring together the unsung heroes that can be new leadership, principled through political education, right? Because political education, like I mentioned first, should be the first thing that we hope people join in since the uprising, since the Bessemer car caravans. Talk about why there are no unions in the South. Why is it that we're pushing that the unions in the South to be the first ones? So, on that note, I'm going to show this next slide.